Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Big show tonight here on June. What's the date today?
Today's the 8th.
Today's the 8th. We're just flying. Tuesday the 8th. We're just flying by. These days, they just go into one day. It feels like anymore. It feels like yesterday was May.
It's all blur.
Yeah. All right. So big show tonight. We're going to talk some stuff recruiting. We talked about in the last episode that the dead period, finally ended after what felt like 10 years. So recruits are being shuffled in like it's nobody's business right now. It's like every day it's like 15 new guys step off a plane and are in Columbus. So it's been very hard. I am hating how this is going right now just because it's actually hard to keep up with. It's like awesome that it's back,
right?
But then it's it's just so condensed because they're just rushing to get everybody on that it's really hard to keep track of. But so we did get some recruiting news yesterday with a new commitment, so we'll discuss that. Mm-hmm. And then a couple other we'll talk about a couple other recruits, and then we're gonna then finish up the show. We talked about, I believe it was the last one, about Gene wanting the playoffs to be bumped up. So there is actually some sort of proposal that came out by Pete Thamel. Guess he's saying different things he's hearing from some sources. So we'll kind of discuss that proposal, just how we feel about it, and that'll be pretty much it. But actually, real quick, just remembered before I forget, did want to throw out something to start off the show. So Jim Tressel this week had a funny little thing that he said, as and nobody wants to talk about the best mortality here, when his time up is coming. But he said he could once somebody asked him, he said once we finally pass Michigan for the all-time lead, then he can finally go to sleep happy. So I think that's coming fairly soon. So I hope we don't see Jim's passing in the next decade, because it's probably happening within this decade. But
yeah, hopefully the Buckeye lead gets to like 20 games in that series before we got to say goodbye to the vest.
Yeah. Especially after we saw somebody on Twitter put up yesterday that since 2018 till the 2018 class, the 2022 class, Ohio State has 43 top 100 players that have committed or is committed, and Michigan has 9. So I kind of feels like that record is just the passing of that torch is happening sooner rather than later. And yeah, just thought that was pretty funny. So just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, hopefully it's much larger than just passing them up, because there's not really how this has been going. That's going to happen pretty soon, Jim, because they don't got that big of a lead on Ohio State anymore.
Yeah. All right. So recruiting's hit. We've had, I think, a big chunk of all of our top 22 guys have come in now, I believe, that were already committed. It seems
yes.
like most of them have been here, if not basically all of them. So we had definitely got some firm ups on their commitments. pretty much Ewers said he was done. Caleb Burton said he was done. I mean, which are all great to hear. Hopefully that's true. We've kind of talked about this on past episodes. It just seems like, it's weird how recruiting goes nowadays. I mean, I remember that, if you got a big time kid this early, usually meant, you might be really trying to, unless he was an in-state kid, unless he's like Beanie Wells, you were really trying to fight off, other teams. And it was always a 50-50 thing that he was not going to be in your class. But now it just seems like it's like 75-25, 80-20 that they are in the class and they're here to stay. They want to recruit, which is kind of cool. It's just, it's a kind of different, the different perspective for us. Cause, we grew up in the systems where, you had a whole bunch of, commitments on those all-star games. And then you had a whole bunch of commitments on signing day or right around signing day. So just different.
Yeah, absolutely. It is different. Like you said, though, I mean, these guys, like, as you were saying, like, you'd have to fight, tooth and nail to keep these guys on your team, to keep these commits, that nobody was safe, that they were going to be getting calls from schools all the time up until their decision, until they put the hat on, I should say. And you know what? They probably still are. Some of these schools like Quinn Ewers, people are not going to just stop calling him. Like, someone's still, Dabo's out there, Saban's out there. I mean, Jimbo in state, he might be, trying to get him to A&M, Sarkisian. So
it just seems like, I mean, I don't know what Jimbo has. It just seems, I think any of the other schools that he would really consider, they've already got a top guy locked up. And so they would you would think if they were going after Ewers that they would kind of have to say goodbye to, that guy that they got. So,
top guy, a top guy and the top guy are two different things.
Yeah, it's true. But it's just, I don't know. It's just a different mindset to me. You don't expect this.
I know you've watched his highlight.
Oh, God, he's
I've never seen any. I haven't seen many college or pros that can throw that hard, that straight. And that kid, I mean, he throws ropes.
Yeah,
he can throw like a rope, like 60 yards. It's insanity.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting how all this finishes up. But so far, definitely liked what we are hearing from the kids that are already committed. They all seem like they are even more in love with Ohio State than they were now that they've seen it than they were when they committed. But the big news yesterday, so speaking of 22, we ended up with another commitment. Brian Hartline, if Ryan Day is the assassin, the rosy cheek assassin, we got to come up with something for Hartline because, I mean, this guy's just a killer his recruiting chops are almost becoming unmatched in the country right now.
Yeah. He's definitely the hit man. I mean, that's just, there's no other way around it. I mean, Kaleb Brown, he's a 4-star, 2022 kid from Chicago, Illinois. I think he's something like in the composite, the number 6 ranked wide receiver, number 2 ranked Illinois kid. So he's a stud. There's so many of them that are studs, but again, he just added another one.
Another top 100 kid, overall. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And I don't know how to explain it because since they've, Olave's ended up being one of the best wide receivers that ever played at Ohio State, but he was never, he wasn't one of those, like, there was not, coming into this, him being recruited in, I mean, there wasn't all these stars next to him that he was considered, the next great thing at Ohio State. Basically though, since Garrett Wilson, I mean, they've just been on a tear, in recruiting wide receivers, and it's just scary. And you got the more talent, he seems like they put in at wide receiver, it's like they're matching it with the quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks want to play for Day, the receivers want to come play for Day's offense under Hartline's tutelage, and it's just becoming a very nasty combination right now.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like you said, Garrett Wilson, and what year's Cam Babb? Is that the year before, or is that year too?
It's one or the other. I can't remember the exact years anymore.
No, because he was healthy last year, and he was hurt the 2 years before that. So he's an 18 guy, but it's like Jameson Williams. He was no slouch either as a recruit. I think he's a top 100 kid, and he got him in that same year as Garrett Wilson. Of course, he got 4 top 100 receivers the year after that. I mean, Mookie left, and you got 3 close to top 100 guys last year. I mean, the number 1 receiver in the country again. You got the number 1 receiver in the country 3 years in a row. Like, the work that guy's doing, I don't even know. I mean, he's just like the conqueror out there. And I mean, at this point, we kind of talked about it. We've talked about it a lot, just the, talent disparity between Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten. But I mean, yeah, Bama beat Ohio State's defense up last year in that title game. Sure. But whose offense in the Big Ten is good enough that they can hang with Ohio State so their defense can get a couple stops? I mean, I don't know what is like realistically for a Big Ten team, like how do you have to approach recruiting now to try to catch up? You got to try to just get defensive backs. Like,
yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if they can get the type of caliber, any of them, even Michigan, Penn State, I don't even know if they can get the type of caliber or secondary that's going to be able to even compete against that again. I mean, basically, you have to almost every year, if any of the other schools have to be able to like pull in an Akuda and Sean Wade in the same recruiting class every year. And they're not going to do that over Ohio State.
No, and it's hard enough to pull those guys in, over the other national powers or over, the South or West Coast. It's so difficult for a lot of these teams in the Big Ten to get that type of caliber kid. And I know Michigan, they got a legacy. They got Will Johnson, which he's still taking a visit out to USC. I don't think anyone will flip him. I mean, he's a legacy recruit, but yeah. It's interesting to, think about. I mean, even, I don't know. I mean, if Michigan got, what was his name? Damani Jackson to go along with Will Johnson, that would have been great, but he went to USC.
Yeah. And, Penn State, they're known they can get secondary guys. Michigan's known to be able to get secondary guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, you have to be able to put 4 legitimate studs in your secondary to even compete against Ohio State's receiving core. I mean, you better hope to God, like whoever the quarterback is, that you can rattle them. And Ohio State's got such a veteran, really, if you think about it, a veteran offensive line coming back, because you got basically the 2 best tackles in the country when you consider that they didn't give up any sacks. They're the 2 best when it comes up to pass rushing. And then, every guy in the middle of that line that's going to end up played either significant snaps, starting snaps, or played in Paris Johnson's case, he contributed in a very large game and did very well.
Very well.
Well. I mean, the middle of the line will be fine. And then you have 2 great tackles on the outside. So
yeah.
I just don't know how you get to these guys.
And kind of comment on that a little bit further. I mean, it came out this week for returning tackles in the country from Pro Football Focus that the number 1 and number 2 ranked tackles when it comes to, protecting the quarterback that had the least amount of pressures this year was not Paris Johnson, was Thayer Munford was number 1 and NPF was number 2.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't know how you attack it. And even if you had a good defense, a really good defense, like I expect Michigan to put I expect them to put one of their normal defenses on the field this year, not the defense that we saw last year. And I expect Penn State's defense to be Penn State's defense. And, you're going to have some other solid defenses in there. Wisconsin always has a good defense. We'll see how Sparty does. And, name's escaping me, but he's a good defensive coach.
Is it Tucker?
Yeah, Tucker. Iowa at different times has had good defenses. Nebraska has had good defenses, but none of them are going to be able to put a defense on the field that can stop an Ohio State just level offense for 4 quarters. And even if Ohio State's defense ends up not being at the level we think it's going to be, and we think it's going to be a pretty good defense, that is something you worry about and come playoff time. Ohio State's defense there's nobody in the Big Ten I can think of right now that's going to, outside maybe Indiana, that really can throw out any type of offense that even close to semi scares me. And
that's the only one I can think of also is Indiana's the only one I think that could, possibly score with Ohio State, possibly. Yeah. But even then, I don't think anybody, if it's Ohio State's best day, not even their best day, like a pretty good day for Ohio State, I don't think anyone can, stay within 10 points of them in the Big Ten because they're not going to be able to keep up that pace.
Yeah. So Kaleb Brown, huge get, and
he was a Michigan lean. I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but he was a Michigan lean for a little bit. I think they were kind of confident that they were going to get him, and then it really just last week or two, just how quick it always goes for when Ohio State steals someone.
Yeah. You have Brian Hartline, you have Ryan Day, and then you get them on campus, and I'm sorry, it's a beautiful thing, and now you got name, image, and likeness possibly coming up here pretty quick, and okay, that would just probably end up sealing the deal, and we'll have an interior receiver now with Kaleb Brown. He's going to be another a slot guy. And that's the one thing I've been really impressed with Hartline. It seemed like they're under Urban, and nothing against Urban. More this on Smith. He after Devin and Michael Thomas, we never seemed like we didn't get many outside receivers, and it was just a lot of slot guys after slot guys. And don't get me wrong, we ended up making do. The Paris Carroll, Johnny Dixon, KJ Hill groups. McLaurin was really the only true kind of outside guy out of that bunch, and we made really do with it. But now we're getting a good mixture of everybody. It's like, we need outside guys, we get them. We need inside guys, we get them.
And they all are, not only are they like good wide receivers. So many of them are just polished wide receivers now, but a lot of them have top end speed too. That, you got that with Paris and Terry, of course, he was really fast. Johnny was fast too, but it's kind of like, some of those guys, that's all they had. But then also like the guys that were more polished receivers, like, your Austin Macks, Mack wasn't beating anybody,
No, exactly. No. And same with Victor, even though, I think, when you think about Ben Victor, the great touchdown catch against, and the touchdown catch and run against Penn State, but
don't forget the Michigan State one in 2019 either.
Yeah, it's true. But he just never lived up to his, I think, full potential in Columbus. And, but it just seems like these guys are just different. And it's been a much different breed that they both inside and outside that they've brought in there.
Not to focus too much time on it, but that was something that always kind of bothered me, though, is how much everybody crapped on Ben Victor, and Austin Mack was this untouchable guy. And I always thought about it, Ben Victor was always more productive than Austin Mack at Columbus.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them kind of lived up to their hype. I thought they both could have been a lot better. I liked both of them. I liked Victor. Nothing against him. I thought he was really good. It's just, And I just thought that when you think about the receivers of those years, I mean, you think more of those inside guys, and I mean, they all, I thought, overproduced, I mean, especially when Dixon finally got healthy, KJ, Parrish, and Dixon, and then McLaurin. I mean, those four were unstoppable in a lot of ways. And,
and Mack was a great possession receiver, and I know he got hurt in 2018. The thing with Victor, I think a lot of people were like, oh, we got our 6'5" guy. He's going to be the next Julio Jones or next AJ Green. And he never, he was never that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then, after Kaleb Brown, a 2023 guy, so Gabriel Harris, he's, came in, and right after he came in, he was a Florida State commit. He decommitted from Florida State, and then basically all the crystal balls have now started rolling in for Ohio State. He's a 23 defensive end guy, so still a long way to go with him. But you got to feel good that after he comes in and visits, especially being a guy from the South that comes visits Columbus and decides that Florida State's not the place for him anymore.
Well, and then after he decommitted, he got a very quick offer from Ohio State also. Yeah. So definitely he's on their radar. I guess from what, the videos I saw and from what I read, he was kind of like the MVP of his day. Like he really stood out in his camp. So I'm sure Larry Johnson was trying to get all over that.
Yeah.
You know how LJ likes to take those studs.
Yeah. And so, that would be a huge get. Like I said, that's, obviously 23. You got a long way off for that one. So,
and pulling kids from the South too, that are committed to a Southern school, that's no easy task. Even if it is Florida State and they're way down from, who they were, it's still a big deal.
And, being a Georgia kid, so you got to figure, if he does commit to Ohio State, you're going to be, not even mentioning Alabama, you're going to be fending off Georgia and Clemson both very heavily, to keep him in the class because, Clemson has done so well recruiting Georgia and, Georgia is Georgia. So,
Larry Johnson, even if they are 4 stars already, he tends to have an eye for people before everyone else does. And the guys that he evaluates, they tend to, kind of jump up those recruiting boards pretty quickly.
Yeah. Still want to see if we can find LJ the Fountain of Youth. How do we keep that man forever?
I know, man. You can't do it. There's going to be a day that they're going to have to trust it to someone else, but hopefully that day is not for a couple years still.
Science is getting better every year. Maybe make him immortal.
Oh, God. Yeah. Hell, I hope they do.
And then safety Zion Branch is another big one that seemed like he did. Now, is he a 22 or 23 kid? Do you remember?
He's a 22. He's one of the top safeties in the country. Okay. They're actually in for both of them. The other kid, it's Xavier. Now, I can't say his last name. He's from Iowa though. So they're in for both of these guys. He's ranked as the number 4 safety composite in the country, Zion Branches, 49th national player in the country. So he's out of Bishop Gorman. Big guy. He's like close to 6'3", 6'2.5". But he was one that he was really impressed with Columbus because I think he was like someone that was maybe, could be, maybe not, looking at other places. And then crystal ball started rolling in for him, after his visit. So,
that would be a big thing. We've talked about this before, and I don't know if it's just been us privately talking about this or if this has been on the show, but, Ryan Day has really found, some really just he's really hit the West like really, really well. And it's very, I mean, it's just such a sign that USC is just such down. I mean, these players were all PD players, back in the day. I mean, none of these kids would have went to Ohio State, and
but
go
ahead. Sorry.
And I was just going to say, I mean, we're Urban focused. I mean, so much of Urban's national recruiting focus was really heavily focused in, the DMV area and then in the Deep South and Florida. So it's Florida, Deep South, Texas ended up getting added into that, and then the DMV. That was really so basically the Southeast with the Southwest thrown in there. If you count Texas as they're more of central because they can be Southeast and Southwest depending on, which side of Texas you are recruiting somebody from. But I mean, that was really the heavy focus, outside of, he obviously wanted the best players in Ohio, and then that was his heavy national focus, and got some other guy. I mean, obviously got some California players, hit Arizona up a couple times, did get some West Coast people, but it just seems like this is just a much stronger focus. And, Day, I think, is like found, there's some really good players out there that actually, if they lived in a different part of the country, they would be some of the most heavily recruited players in the country. And, let's make a focus and go after some of those guys and get them east and, show them what Ohio State can do. And you're going to be in front of a lot more TVs. You're not going to be playing it when people are going to bed, and, come play in Ohio. And it's actually, I mean, he still gets players out of the Southeast. It's just been, I think it's still a focus. I just don't think it's as crazy as a focus maybe. And, obviously Texas is still fertile ground for the Buckeyes. So we're under Urban, it was Texas East, and now it's like Day, it's kind of like Texas West. And, and it's just a different dynamic that out of all the years, and, Tressel was a good recruiter too. And, so was Cooper. It just, you never would think that they would entrench themselves so much in the West as they are.
Yeah. And Urban did kind of help with that because the one class, he did pull 3 guys out of Bishop Gorman. So that was definitely helpful that he was able to do that, kind of get an in with the school. Of course, 2 of them transferred, but Haskell Garrett's still around. But no, to go along with what you were saying that, USC, if they were still there, we know, they would be getting these kids, but
maybe we'd be able to get 1 or 2 of them, but these would be USC kids.
Not only that though, I mean, you wouldn't even waste your time going in to California or the West Coast to try to get these guys, because you would know that there was no way you're getting them out of the state. So your recruiting efforts would have been focused elsewhere. So that shows the state of that program, that all these other colleges, and I've said it before, the top 3 quarterbacks in the country, or I'm not in California, from the 2020 class. So last year's class, right? Bryce Young, DJ Ugalele, I can't say his name, and CJ Stroud, they're good, with the maybe exception of CJ Stroud, they're going to be your starters at Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State respectively. And that's something that, you would have never got all 3 of those guys out of there.
Yeah.
Hell, USC might have taken 2 of them before. One might have been the backup and then move on from there. But yeah, so it's crazy that what's going on out there now. We celebrated when Urban was able to pull Marcus Ball out of California, a tight end. Yeah. That was the biggest victory ever that we got him. And then, you got Wyatt Davis a couple years after that, which that was huge. That was huge.
It felt like when they got Marcus Ball, it was like they finally got payback for Petey getting Fred Davis out of Toledo.
How that ever happened.
Yeah.
That sucked. I never in my wildest dreams thought they were going to pull that kid all the way out to USC.
Yeah. Well, they brought him out there to beautiful USC, and there's a lot of beautiful scenery out there. And I'm not just talking about the environment, even though that's pretty nice too. But yeah, so And that kid out of Iowa, that would be you would think, how much would that sting? You got a top level safety and you got Iowa, which is, that's got to be the dream come true for any of those kids to go to Iowa. And now you got a legitimate football program in Iowa State with Campbell. And here's your best player, and Ohio State comes into Iowa and it goes, takes him out of the state. That would just be such a morale booster for those schools that, we get a top level kid that's actually in our state. And, you don't get a lot of those kids in Iowa. Our top national kids. And here comes Ohio State in and just picks whatever they want.
And that's kind of what sucks for them too, because, you get a kid that's really like top end, top level, and it's just like the state schools that's just not even an option for him to go to Iowa or Iowa State. This kid's being recruited by Notre Dame, by Ohio State, by Clemson, that's like the big names. Texas A&M's out there for him. So Iowa's not even on the kid's radar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy to think of. Like I said, we've had a lot of, I know the top running back in 23, is in there tonight.
Richard Young. Yeah, he's in there.
So I'm assuming he's in for camp for tomorrow.
I would think so, because he had touched down after they would have been done for the day by the time he had touched down and said he landed.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's hard keeping track of them, because every day there's just been, it's like Pantone has, just a plethora of tweets are coming out every day about touchdown as he's retweeting people saying they've touched down in Columbus, and been like, my God, how many people are they bringing in? So, we knew it was a lot because we talked about it last episode, but now it's like, now that you're actually seeing it, it's like, oh my God, how are they keeping track of it? Like Pantone, as much as he loves it, he probably kind of wants to pull his hair out, because it's like, how do you even keep track of all these guys? And
no, they had another 5-star, and I think he's listed as an athlete, but running back from it's actually from Trinity, and that's Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
because that's where Wade and like Tyreek Johnson, Marcus Crowley was from there. Yeah, so Trayon Webb, he was in today too, and he was doing an individual workout with Tony Alford. And, tomorrow it's going to be the 5-star from the next class is going to be working out with Tony Alford. So, yeah, I'm sure these guys' heads are spinning, because you got to knock it out of the ballpark every single day. And it's not with the same kid. You're not like continuously working on the same guy. Hey, I learned a little bit about him yesterday, so let's build on that. It's like, all right, I got a whole new group of people I got to talk to tomorrow.
Yeah. And you got to imagine the Buckeyes support staff is just not just Pantone, but his whole staff. I'm sure they got binders of all these kids, and so as one group of kids leave, these coaches are being handed the binders over of the next group of kids. Here's your tomorrows, and so yeah, it's crazy to think of. Obviously, you're not going to get every one of these kids, but so far what we're seeing on Twitter, there's a lot of love for the Buckeyes with a lot of these kids. So that's really, really cool. That it definitely seems like, we're definitely going to the Kaleb Brown is not going to be our first, win victory out of this month, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. Is Pantone is he sleeping the month of June?
Probably not. It's probably, Red Bulls and coffee, a lot of them. So hopefully his heart's not beating too fast, because it's probably just like nonstop. I don't know if his wife and kids get to see him this month. He's probably sleeping at the Woody. So
he's probably on the phone with Urban every day asking, hey, Coach Meyer, how do you stay up for 3 weeks in a row again?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. So that's, it's been just incredible. At least I'm just glad it's finally that the recruiting's finally, back in the mix. It's something, I've always loved recruiting. it was a lot easier it was funny. It was a lot easier when I was younger to follow it because, you just didn't have much in life. And as you get older, then it's like, even though it's so much more accessible now than when we were growing up, those were all, website forums and stuff like that back in the day. And now, even though there's still website forums, but you didn't have any of the social media as you do now. But, it's still crazy, and I still love it. It's just like it just gets your blood flowing, just because it's like it's just in times of the year where you shouldn't be thinking about football, you're thinking about football.
Well, and like to go along with that, I mean, for enthusiasts like you and I, like this is even a little overwhelming for us to try to keep track of all this. I mean, can you imagine about like the actual like. And I'm not talking about like the professionals that do recruiting. I'm talking about like the coaches that are trying to land these kids. I mean, I can't even imagine just how much effort and how difficult this is for them.
Oh yeah, because you want you do want to recruit. You want all of them. I mean, these are big time kids, and so you have to show the same amount of love and like dedication and just awareness for every single one of these kids as you did the kid that came in the day before, or that kid's just going to cross you off the list because, well, he didn't seem like he was too much into me, so I guess Ohio State's off the list. And you got to bring your A game every single day, and that's not easy, even for guys that are just absolutely love their jobs and, love what they're doing. I mean, you gotta be at the, just peak level, like enthusiasm for every one of these kids.
Well, I mean, at least the best in the business though is supporting these coaches. You got Pantoni behind him. He sure as hell is going to make sure, all these kids are welcome and everyone knows who everyone is.
Yeah. All right. So, before we get on out of here tonight, so we did talk about this possibly, you brought up a good point on our last show, if Gene got his wish, he said let's expand to 8 with the 5 conference champions of the Power 5 getting in. And you brought up a really good point that you said, hey, if they did that, then you only had to win your conference. Well, that could add another marquee game to the schedule. Yeah. And I never really thought about it like that. I'm like, that's really true because, all you have to do is just win your conference. And it actually and then we kind of mentioned how it also helps schools like Penn State and Indiana, maybe Michigan one day, if they would ever get their crap together, that, these schools might say, all we have to do is beat Ohio State either in the regular season so we could get into the game or end the game in the Big Ten championship game. So, I mean, I think it would be such a better thing if they just did that because I think it opens up a lot more possibilities that, if you let the conference champions in and then you take what we were talking about 3 at-larges. So
Sorry to cut you off real quick. Just to kind of take it a step further from even that, hey, we got to, as long as we beat Ohio State, we get in. But think about it like this, like, your Wisconsin's, Penn State's, Michigan's, whomever it may be, your second tier Big Ten teams, because there's only one real, first tier, top tier Big Ten team. But those guys, they might do a harder out of conference schedule because think about it like this. We're not going to beat Ohio State at the end of the day. But if we beat 2 good teams, we could be an at-large with 1 loss.
Yeah. Or maybe if we play some tougher teams, maybe we have a team ready to play Ohio State. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. And so it definitely brings up a lot of things. So this proposal came out. You shared it with me earlier. It was coming from Thamel. So, and it's from what he's heard, that it could be possibly now it doesn't say anything whether the 5 conference champions are getting in, even though in this system, it would be very hard for all 5 not to get in because they're talking about 12 teams and the 4 top teams got to bye. And then so they would be waiting to the second round to play, the winners of the other game.
Right. You'd have 4 playing games.
Yeah. And I don't know. I kind of thought about it. I liked it. I mean, I've kind of been one of those. I have not really wanted. I always felt like 8 was the best, and I didn't want to go to 16. I know some people have mentioned 16. I absolutely would not do anything more than 16, but when they talk about 16, it kind of like, I get very.
You're starting to put teams that just have no shot whatsoever.
Yeah, like I don't want to see, mid-tier, Big Ten and Pac-12 and Big 12 and teams, and even some of these crappy SEC teams that everybody seems to love, and be like, do I really want to watch A&M at and I know A&M was better last year. Do I really want to watch A&M at 14? Go get their butts handed to them by Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson? No, not really. But I think 12. I would still prefer 8, the 5 conference champions and 3 at-larges, but I think I could live with 12. I think I would like 12. I think that you are at least rewarding those 4 best teams and, for being the best teams. And then I would like to still see the 5 conference champions get guaranteed in. So I would do the 5 Power 5s and then 7 at-larges. And, and maybe in that situation, I would be okay with them bringing Cinderella in and whoever was the group of 5 champion out of the end of the year, the best out of it. Let's make them one of the 7 and then bring the next 6 best at-larges in. And I think that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, group of 5, I would have to say, for them to be an automatic bid, I don't know. They got to be like top 20 or something like that.
The last several years, I think they've all would have.
Oh, yeah. They have been. That's what I'm saying though, is just, it can't just be, hey, you're the best group of 5 team, so you get to go in. Like, they do have to be at least, top 20, top 15 team.
Like, I mean, basically and I agree with that. They should have a threshold that they have to hit. And I would be, but like, I would be really upset unless like the best group of 5 team was just like outstanding. Like, I would have been okay a couple years ago if you had an 18 playoff and Central Florida was one of your 3 at-larges, because I think they would have deserved it. They went undefeated. I think they would have deserved to be one of those 3 at-larges. Just throwing a group of 5 best team in there, if they lose a game or 2, as well, we need to give one of them as an at-large berth for an 18 playoff. I would be completely 100% against that.
Right.
Once we get into 12, I could live with that if they did hit a minimum threshold, I would say. And then, if they could hit that minimum threshold, then we all like Cinderella in the NCAA tournament. Let's see, a Cincinnati or Central Florida or a BYU, whoever that team would be, a Coastal Carolina. Let's see what they would do. I mean, they always say they would knock somebody off. Let's see it happen. So,
yeah, I mean, 12 teams. Like I said, I'm with you with the 8. I think 8's the number. 12 you could make work though. I would say, you still got to incentivize it, because you don't want people to say, oh, well, now we can lose games. It doesn't matter. Like, higher seed gets that first round game's a home game. You play it at, their home stadium. So give it something that you would incentivize someone that you do want to be, the higher 4 seeds out of those remaining 8 seeds that don't get a bye. So you're still fighting for 1 through 4, because you're still, you would get a first round bye if you're 1 through 4. So of course you want to get that, but also you want to actually be in the top 8, because if you end up 4 through 8, at least you're still getting a home game. For that first round. So I think there's ways that you can still incentivize it, that, you're not getting terrible play in the playoffs, and you're going to get people that actually do care about winning every game still.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily need to with an automatic bid.
And how I would, I like what you said there, and how I would personally set it up. So whoever you deem as your top 4, they get the buys 1 through 4. Mm-hmm. But I want to have brackets, winners go play this winner plays 1, this winner plays 2. I wouldn't have that. I would have basically you have your top 4, you move them off to the side, and then you have a 1 through 8, and they play the top 4 of those, get their home games, and then you play those games, and the worst one out of them plays number, and I would just make sure you're guaranteeing that. So, if number 5 beats number 4 and number 6 beats number 3 and 1 and 2 hold, well, 6 should be playing, the number
1 seed. Right.
Yeah. So
no, I can agree with that.
And that's how I would do that. Cause that's kind of how like the NFL sets up their things that, the lowest seed always plays the number 1 seed and so on. So, and I would be okay with 12. I would, like I said, prefer 8, but I think I just want more football at the end of the year. I would love to see a really good playoffs, especially if Ohio State could go the distance in them. But, those games, even though they haven't lived, a lot of them haven't really lived up to the NFL hype because, it seems like the last decade, the NFL playoffs have been unbelievably awesome. And we haven't got the college football playoffs. Outside of, the games Ohio State's won, we've had there's been a lot of snoozer games in there because of some of the blowouts. So.
Right. Unless it's Alabama national title, usually. I know there were some exceptions in there, but like the Clemson national titles that they had traded back and forth. And then when they had beaten Georgia, unless it was those games, then really, Ohio State's the only one that when they win games, they're close games, Yeah. Oregon wasn't a close game.
Yeah. And the comeback against Alabama, outside of, the Georgia-Alabama national title and, when those 2 Alabama-Clemson national titles, probably the best game out of all of them has been, the Oklahoma-Georgia game was pretty good. So, there's been a couple in there.
There's been good games.
There just seems like there's been an overwhelming amount of crap games. The Clemson-Ohio State game from 2 years ago that we lost was, in our minds sucked, but probably in the minds of college football fans was a good game. So,
the game ended with an interception in the end zone, so.
Yeah.
Ohio State had a chance to win that game.
Yeah. So, no, I would definitely, I would get behind that if they would go that far with 12. I think I could live with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's doable. It's definitely doable.
Yeah. I just think it's time to move on from, I've even said, I would, I've always said I would prefer 8, but I've even said if they would give us 6, I would live with 6 because I think that, you just need a couple more teams in there. It's just been, then you would not have, and everybody always says, well, if you let 6 in, number 7's gonna bitch. And, if you let 8 in, number 9's gonna.
Sure.
But there has been a point outside it always seems like there's only 1 or 2 teams that really possibly deserve a consideration to get in. And I will, if they go to 8, I'll love it, but I don't think those right now, none of these playoff years, there's been any indication to me that the 7th or 8th team could go win a national title in any of these seasons.
Yeah.
And I will feel that way if we have 12 teams. And so, but, more football equals more money. And, that's probably the way they're going to go. So.
Right. But if you have 8 teams in, if you make automatic bids, that the number 9 team in the country, that takes away a lot of what they can really bitch about. Because, if you're talking about the 3 at-larges, well, there's a good chance that somewhere within the top 8 teams is a second SEC team that probably, they deserve to be in the playoffs. So how can number 9 bitch about them being in when, one SEC won their conference, the other one was runner up or maybe was the second place team in the West, and they got to go in because they deserve to be there. So I do agree that they're always going to bitch, someone's always going to complain that they got left out. But on the flip side of that, though, if you do have actual criteria set up about, what can make the playoffs, teams know what they have to do to make the playoffs. So you might be the number 9 team, but you didn't win your conference. You knew, if you won your conference, you're in. So that's all you ever had to worry about.
Yeah. Go win your conference and don't worry about anything else. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's,
as much as you and I thought, 2017 Ohio State maybe with JT Barrett could have pulled off some miracle, or 2018 that they could have, everyone threw all over everyone. Maybe they could have beat, Clemson or Alabama in the playoffs. The fact remains that Ohio State got drubbed in in consecutive years to Iowa and Purdue. So as much as we're like, well, we could have won, anything could happen in football. We were realists. Like, we didn't deserve to go there because we got destroyed in 2 games.
Yeah. I was always more upset about 18 over 17 just because, 17 they lost 2 games, and that was, I know what a lot of people said that, but the Oklahoma game, wasn't even, the Oklahoma game, they handled us pretty easily, even in that game. It wasn't as bad as Iowa, but, Oklahoma also wasn't, it wasn't some, fluke at the end of the game, or, them coming back, or them winning a very good game that was back and forth the whole game and they just got the ball last. They won the game, and when you can take all things considered, pretty easily. So, yeah. That wasn't, there was really nothing you could really argue over that one.
So that's what I'm, like, if there is that actual set criteria, you win your conference. Because if that was there, 2017 and 2018, Ohio State would have made it to the playoffs because they won their conference both those years. So I think that's just something that, even though, everyone will always bitch, but if you or someone will always, but if you have that criteria set and have that in place, that just, there's less ability for people to complain because there is an actual goal that you can accomplish to get yourself into those playoffs.
And if they went to 8, I would have to go back and look at 2015 a little closer, but if they would go to 8, would Ohio State have made every playoff so far?
I can't imagine they would not have gotten an at-large in 15. So, I think so.
I think they were one of the top, they would have been one of the top 3 at-larges.
Yeah, that's something that I think Ohio State would make most playoffs, given how it is, how they're doing right now on the recruiting trail. So, I think they probably would have made every playoff. But Alabama, I'm sure Alabama, Oklahoma, and Clemson would have made every playoff too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think they would have. All right. Yeah, I think we could, it would be interesting. It definitely, there's definitely momentum that it's going to expand. It's just, are they going to 6? Are they going to 8? Are they going to 12? That was kind of, 12 was always the one I always thought they would go 6 or 8. Yeah. And then if they were going to go big, they would go 16. Yeah. 12 was just the one I never expected they would even attempt. And, maybe that seems like 12 might be the one. So
that's what Thamel says has the most traction right now. So take that for whatever it's worth, and we'll see if it happens.
Yeah. All right. I think we will get on out of here with that. Take us on out.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for stopping in tonight. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.